Hello there, I'm Pricklyman representing the video game Confederacy, and today we're going to be looking at Fear 3. I know usually I do some flowery intro, but this does not deserve a flowery intro. This is a bad game. Oh god, it's really bad. Now let's look at why. Fear 3 was released in 2011 under the title of F3AR. Now that tells you something already. They're too lazy to use the English language. It was developed by Day One Studios and published by WB. Warner Brothers. But I guess we'll just look past that. I mean, they didn't really do anything about developing the game, so I guess it's not totally their fault. Although I'm sure QR would have something to say. The game was released as a sequel, obviously, to the first two Fear games. And it's a direct sequel in the sense that the events of number 1 and 2 directly relate to this third installment. And, well, I'll have something to say about that later. The first thing I want to talk about in this game is the presentation and the graphics. Now, the presentation in general terms, I mean, to put it in a metaphor, Fear 3 is to survival horror as Resident Evil 5 was to survival horror. Actually, you know what? It's as to horror at all. There are no scares at all. Like, if this game was not called Fear, I wouldn't know that it was a horror game. I think it was just a standard shooter. Which just perplexes me on about 100 different levels. I mean, the graphics and the sound are alright. I mean, you know, the guns. I've always liked gun sounds in shooters. Like, seriously, some games, like, you just load them up and you think, wow, those gun sounds were really detailed. But here, it's nothing special. Like, they sound alright, the graphics are exactly the same, like, it's like there's nothing wrong with them, there's nothing that makes me go, oh my god, that looks fantastic, this is brilliant, this is wonderful. So it's alright, it's a pass mark, but it's nothing really that good. The gameplay is the core part of the game, as it were, but not what I'm going to talk about the most. I want to talk about the story the most, but obviously we'll get to the gameplay, barrel through that first. You play as two different characters, or you can play as two different characters, I should say. You have the Point Man and Paxton Fettle. Now you see, Fettle is psychically linked to the Point Man, which means he's got a bunch of fancy psychic powers, whereas the Point Man is more about just shooting people. The Point Man is exactly the same as he is controlled in the previous Fear games, or more specifically just Fear 1. He shoots bullets from his variety of firearms and puts things into slow motion bullet time. That's it. Like, there's nothing particularly fancy, you're just doing it. Fettle is the more interesting of the two, but also the more inferior. Much inferior. So much fucking inferior. Playing Fettle is a disadvantage. And the best part about it all is you don't actually, when you're playing co-op, you don't actually choose your character. You don't choose your character, no. You actually get assigned it based on whether you're the server host or the person joining the server. So you can't actually say to your friend, oh look, I will play Fettle this round and you can play Point Man. No, you have to be able to host the server. So if one of you has technical difficulties hosting a server, so you can only actually connect to one of you, you're fucked. Congratulations, you're either playing Fettle or you're playing Point Man, depending on who has the technical issues. You're not allowed to change, fuck off. And that's a huge disadvantage, because as I said, Fettle is shit. So the main reason Fettle is shit is because he's not powerful. You see, Point Man has a bunch of guns, you know, you can pick up any gun in the game, obviously. But to do that, for Fettle to do that, he has to possess a body. Now, possessing a body of a soldier, of course, has limitations, which in this case is time. You have to continue to pick up these souls from your dead enemies to stay in the body. But you see, the thing is, when you're in a body, with a couple of exceptions, which I'll get to, you're just Point Man, because you've got a gun! That's it! You're just Point Man! But you can't do bullet time! So you're just a fucking shittier Point Man! That's it! Period! Full stop! So what's the point of even being Fettle? Well, as I said, there are exceptions. You can possess these like phase commander dudes who have this big fat armor and a big fat gun, which is cool, But it's a shame there's only like 8 in the game or something. 8 of them, literally 8 of them. And obviously you're not going to possess every single one of them because they come in like sets of 3 or 2. So you're just, blowing things up. And the last 2 you just take out with a mech. There's also these phase casters, which the primary advantage is that when you take control of them, you can see all your enemies, which is cool. But again, there's only like 3 or 4 of them in the game. The other exception is there's a few levels where there are a bunch of zombies running around. You can take control of the zombies, but even then, that's just fun as opposed to... Like, the only reason I like that section of the game is because with Fettel, you can do something different to being Point Man. That's it. And that's it. That's all the exceptions. The rest of the game, you'll just be taking control of dudes who turn you into a weaker Point Man. There's no point to Fettel. Fettel is shit. Fettel is literally shit. He is the shittiest shit in the land of shit. Now, the story. Now, look, the story in this game is completely based on the story of the first 2. It's an extension of the Fearverse, or the Almaverse, or whatever you want to fucking call it. I mean, it's all just shit, really. But the problem is it relies on the fact that you've played the first 2 games. Now, I've always had a problem with games that do that. I should be able to pick up any game ever made and be able to play it without having played other games. To a point. I mean, I don't exactly expect to play, an expansion pack to a game without having played the main game. Like, the plots can go on there. Like, that makes a bit of sense, but not sequels. I should be able to say, I don't want to buy the first 2 Fear games. They're old, or whatever. I just want to buy the newest one. But no, that doesn't work. You have characters from the other games which are not introduced properly in this game because they were introduced in the other games. So there's no character development on that front. You get the briefest of recaps in the beginning of the game. The briefest. But it doesn't really explain anything. You kind of have to guess. The other problem is silent protagonist. Silent protagonists. I hate silent protagonists. Now, in some games it works, but mostly those older games where you're not trying to do a story. You're not really trying to fill out a plot, as it were. Or alternatively, you have a silent protagonist and many supporting characters. But you see, the supporting character in Fear 3, there are 2 really, but only one of them's with you all the time, which is Paxton Fettel. Oh, Fettel, you little fuck. Because Fettel is a fucking madman. So you don't really get an idea of what's going on, you just have his little delusions of what's going on, as it were. So when the protagonist can't actually explain what's going on, you know your story's fucked. And that's just the beginning. The entire thing's completely incongruent. In the very first scene, before you even actually get control of your characters, Fettel walks through a wall. That is not an ability you get in the game. It is not something that happens ever again. But it happens once. Now, it's established in many of the cutscenes that Fettel is an incorporeal being, because no other character ever acknowledges him, recognizes him, does anything at all, except for Point Man. And again, the reason for that is because this was explained in the opening cutscene, there was a psychic link between them. Okay, fine, alright, let's just say I buy that. So there's a psychic link between them, which is why Point Man can see him and why Fettel can help Point Man. Fettel has a bunch of latent psychic powers which allow him as an incorporeal being to possess other beings. Okay, let's just say I buy that. But why then can the normal enemies shoot Fettel? Why are the enemies, the standard guards, recognize, acknowledge, and shoot Fettel, and then Fettel dies, by the way, nice job being an incorporeal being, if in the cutscenes, no one even knows he's fucking there? That makes absolutely no sense! How can he be incorporeal in the cutscenes and corporeal in the not cutscenes? And he does some of the things in the game, in the cutscenes, so it's not like he's like changing his form or some shit. Nothing makes sense, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So for example, and often, the game just casually accepts things. So for example, there's a bunch of zombies in the field. And it's like, oh yeah, you know, we'll fight the zombies. And then at the end of it, it's like, oh yes, Alma has touched them. And it's like, okay, fine. When? How? Why? But the game just kind of accepts it. There's one scene where, oh yes. The reason why the town of Fairview, which we went to for no apparent reason, is crumbling is because Alma is giving birth and having contractions. And it's like, okay, fine, look, she's having contractions. Alright, so there's no actual confirmation of this. Nothing actually says, oh yeah, you know, what about this or what about this? It's just, no, she's having contractions. Okay, she's having contractions. Later in the game, there are these like dog-like enemies, which are, you know, they're all trying to pounce you and bite you and things. And no, there's actually no explanation for that when you first see them. They're just kind of like, the game just kind of waits an hour and then says, and then Fettel, because he's the only one who can fucking talk, of course. Fettel says, oh yes, these must be memories of our mother, because, you know, Alma's their mother, and it's just like, okay, fine, alright, look, let's just say I buy that, but again, no one actually questions that. It's just like, oh yes, no, Fettel must be right. Oh, but wait, hang on a second, Fettel can't actually be seen, so why are we assuming he's correct? Nothing makes sense. And just to really cap the entire thing off, the second to last level, you have to go get Beckett, who was the protagonist from the second game, who in the end got raped by Alma, therefore Alma gets pregnant. By the way, Alma's been dead the entire time, but we'll just forget about that, because I'm sure that was explained away in one of the other Fear games, so we'll forget about that. So, Alma's pregnant, and some other stuff's happening. So, in the second to last level, the brothers, you know, Fettel and the Point Man, are all trying to go and get him so they can find out what's actually going on. Even though, by the way, they actually already know what's going on. Because of other reasons. But they already know what's going on, so there's absolutely no reason to actually go get Beckett. It's not like they need to save Beckett or anything. Even if they were saving Beckett, that makes absolutely no sense, because so they find Beckett, they go through a bunch of fights and all that other crap, they find Beckett, they get Beckett, they open the door, and they're gonna question him, and Fettel says, allow me, and then possesses him. Oh, but by the way, this is gonna kill him. Okay, so Beckett dies. But not before telling them absolutely no fucking information at all! It's not like Beckett says, oh yeah, by the way, Alma's here, you know, we should probably go there. You know, and then we'll, you know, do the thing. It's just like, no, he just says exactly the same shit he's been saying on, you know, video feeds and other crap. So, the fact is, going to find Beckett achieved nothing. And that's half the game, by the way. It's split into 8 interludes. Yeah, there's only 8 levels in the game. And finding Beckett is interludes, I believe it's 4, 5, 6, and 7. But it achieved nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. And then, the end of the game makes even less sense. Because they go to find Beckett. They find Beckett. They find nothing about him. Fettel kills him because he's been possessing him. Then they turn into children, go back to their old hospital ward, turn into kids, then turn into adults in a cutscene which has absolutely no purpose at all, break objects of their past to destroy the memories, then shoot the memory of their grandfather, who's turned into a monster, to reach Alma, because apparently their memories stopped them from reaching a physical position in the world. And that's just the end of the game. They go find Alma, and depending on the various co-op things, something happens. Which makes no sense at all. I mean, look, I guess this is a game about psychics and shit. But how does... Like, one of the things you do is you break a bucket, which you used to use in boxing or something. And it's like, oh yeah, well, by the way, that memory's gone now. It's like, what? But what? So in summary, this entire game is just an incongruent series of levels where you shoot people. That's it, that's all I've got. It's just a series of things where you shoot people with guns. That's it. That's fucking it. It's the living end, man. So to conclude, F3AR is just... makes no sense. It makes no sense. I mean, the shooting's alright. Like, when you're playing Point Man, you're just playing a first-person shooter. It's alright. There's nothing wrong with it, per se. But there's nothing going on. And like, it's trying to engross you into a story. But it fails, because I don't know what the... One, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Two, I don't know who the fuck these characters are. Three, what the fuck is... You know, every cutscene just makes you go, what the fuck just happened? What the fuck? And that's just it. Like, that's... You just look at it and you just think... What? And then you cry in the corner because you wasted money on this piece of shit. Oh, and by the way... Like... You might have noticed that this video footage was done as cooperative, in the cooperative mode. So I was actually playing this with a friend, who I would like to thank publicly. We did it in one night. It was New Year's Eve, great way to end the year. It took us 3 hours to finish. And they sold this for retail price. 3 hours! Like, there have been some short games. I mean, I remember when I reviewed Airborne, that was like 4.5 or something. But 3 hours? You've got to be shitting me! And that's with all the cutscenes. That's with all the cutscenes. If I skipped the cutscenes, I'd be done in like 2. Holy crap! I mean, it's a joke of magnanimous proportions. So that's pretty much it. Like, that's all I've got to say about this hunk of crap. It's just, don't buy it. Don't look at it. Don't pollute your mind with it. I mean, you've been seeing in the background here, it's not actually like I usually do the game's main menu or something like that, but no, I've just done the Steam page. Why? Because I uninstalled this piece of shit as soon as I finished it with my mate. So I'm like, I got the footage. I'm done. I'm out. That's it. Goodbye. Done. And, well, my mate said it best in the video clip you're about to see to finish us off. Thank you for watching. I'm Pricklyman, representing the Video Game Confederacy. Have a good one.
Well, that is the most depressing way to ring in the new year ever. I'm sorry, but that really is. I've got to get out. I've got to get out. I've got to get out. It went 12 o'clock. I've got to end the credits.
Fucking bugs! I mean, what the fuck is this? Red Faction Starship Troopers Armageddon fucking up your ass and up the deck? What the fuck were they thinking?